I still have dreams, but they're crazy. They're just crazy. I don't remember them. They tell me at the VA to write them down, and I think I'll remember them. But some of them are just totally insane. I dream about old buddies and places we were, and we were moving all the time. I never talked about it for years, did I?
PTSD is a mental disorder that is brought about as a result of a traumatic experience. For this reason, it is extremely prevalent within war veterans. Generally, PTSD causes those afflicted to suffer flashbacks, fear of certain situations, and in worst-case scenarios, provoke arousals. While PTSD has only been established recently during the 1980s, it can be traced back as early as the Civil War. There are several documented instances of soldiers on both sides committing suicide. While no direct cause could be determined then, it was generally established that war was the common factor. The start of World War I in Europe was also the start of PTSD's rise to prominence. Tens of millions applied to the war draft with no prior experience and no idea what to expect on the battlefield. From a geographical aspect, the implementation of trench warfare in France and Germany was a major cause of PTSD. Spending weeks in the same trenches, soldiers would slowly succumb to boiling anxiety. This, combined with the horrors of war, provided too much for more than a few men. Unfortunately, there was little to no treatment for PTSD at this time. Many with PTSD were simply imprisoned or shot and accused of cowardice. Medics finally came to the conclusion that the mental trauma was actually a product of artillery fire. The concept was that the impact of incoming shells physically caused harm to people's brains, thus the name shell shock. Because of this diagnosis, medics consider PTSD a physical injury, and as such, medics also believe that shock therapy and medicine were viable options to heal soldiers. They paid no attention to a soldier's emotional needs. Contrary to popular belief, shell shock was not something that disappeared as soon as the soldier left the battlefield. By the start of World War II, PTSD was still not an item of concern for the American military. The foreign environments also had a part to play. Tropical weather, unfamiliar settings, and dehydration contributed greatly to soldiers contracting PTSD. Psychologically, too, soldiers realized they were against an enemy that was not afraid of death. Kamikaze pilots were willing to kill themselves to ensure the deaths of American soldiers. Killing remained the basic ideological concept of PTSD. A study that went on after World War II showed that even the most poorly treated prisoners of World War II had fewer symptoms of PTSD because they were no longer in a position to kill. Many think that Vietnam was where PTSD was finally officially recognized. This seems likely because the constant stress of being on the battlefield and staying alive was omnipresent. Soldiers also witnessed firebombing, chemical attacks, and murders of innocent civilians, such as the My Lai massacre. Surprisingly, the major increase in PTSD did not happen during the war. It happened afterwards, when the veterans had already returned home. Otherwise healthy human beings, veterans began to suffer flashbacks and other PTSD symptoms at alarming rates. Doctors even tried to call it post-Vietnam syndrome because they thought it had to do specifically with Vietnam itself.
So John, you're the Senior Welfare and Pension Officer here at Noble Park RSL?
Correct, along with a lot of other hats that I do wear involving veterans and their families.
And you realised that you had post-traumatic stress disorder a long time ago?
First manifested in excessive alcohol and a very angry person when I came back from Vietnam.
And how long were you in Vietnam for?
10 months.
Yep. And how else did post-traumatic stress disorder show up in your life?
Driving my car when I was drunk, .205 on the breathalyzer. Problems with police as far as all that driving. A lot of aggression.
Yep.
A lot of refusing to accept responsibility.
Post-Vietnam America was a time where, from a sociological aspect, PTSD began to become more publicized. Upon returning home, veterans were shunned for their involvement in what seemed to be a waste of time. The side effects of PTSD began to show, including rampant drug use and alcoholism. It was estimated that almost half of male Vietnam veterans of PTSD had been arrested or put in jail at least once. Because of the heightened awareness of PTSD in the public, in 1980, George H.W. Bush established the Department of Veteran Affairs with the intent of helping those with PTSD and keeping them off the streets and prison. Despite advanced technology, today it is just as easy to acquire PTSD.
Oh God. Anyone hurt? Oh God. It's alright. It'll pass. Lord, help us get out here, alright? Oh shit! Holy shit! Hey, chill. Lord, please let it stop. Please let it stop. Oh shit! Oh God, don't let the next one be any closer. Just let him stop, Lord. Holy! No way!
Because of PTSD's psychological aspect, it is also a much debated topic within the court system. Look at the case of Robert Bale, who, in March, snuck out of his military base and killed 17 Afghan villagers while they slept. Listen as the role of PTSD in his defense is explained.
Defense that was floated out there earlier was the possible defense of mental incompetency. PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, is not per se a defense. It would be part and parcel of a mental competency defense, and the rules for court-martial under Rule for Court-Martial 909 and 917 lay out the rules, and basically the court would have to find that the accused cannot meaningfully participate in his defense and is not competent to participate in his defense.
PTSD has changed in United States history with a direct correlation to the conflicts the United States has been involved in. Geographically, seen by the country where the war took place; psychologically, seen by the symptoms and analysis of PTSD's attributes; and sociologically, with concerns over the veteran's health, public safety, and PTSD's representation within our court system.
Just to feel alive again, pushing forward through the night, aching just to blur aside. It's so far